What's up, Internet? It's Brandon here with episode 2 of Free2Play Weekly. This week we'll be looking at all the games released on Steam from 12/23 to 12/29. This week there were significantly less games than last week. Last week we had over 40 games to go over, and this week I think it's 15. So yeah, we'll be going over the 15 games that were released. I'll also be, I'm not going to play the visual novels because it's just not a type of genre I enjoy, but I will still do a shout out at the end of each episode for which visual novels were released that week. So that if that's something you're interested in, I'll leave a timestamp to the visual novels in the description as well, and you can skip to that part and just watch, what visual novels were released this week. I think this week there were two. So all that having been said, let's dive right in. I'd like to start off each video going forward with a recommendation of the week. And this week's recommendation nod goes to 25920 or 25,920. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's a battleship style game, but it is played across 3 layers. So you have the air layer, you have the like sea level layer, and then you have the undersea submarine layer. So you have different units that you place on all 3 layers, and the goal is to not have them get shot down by your opponent, while your goal is to shoot down your opponents. This game has a ridiculous amount of depth for a strategy game. I played against the computer just because I wanted to get a feel for how the game works, and each unit has a skill that it has. So like your planes can scout where ships are, and your ships can sense submarines, and there's different abilities that each unit has to help you determine where your opponent's things can be hidden. And that's whoever clears a total all 3 units from a single layer first is who wins the game. Yeah, I did end up beating the computer, but it was difficult. It took me a little bit to get used to how the game uh, displays information, even though after reading it and absorbing it, it was clear. When it says there's a sub 3 spaces from this space, that's adding the horizontal distance and vertical distance. So 3 spaces could be over 2 and down 1. It could just be 3 up. And so there's a little bit of learning kind of the nomenclature and stuff of how the game plays, but I really enjoyed it. I think it would be a fun game to play against someone because of just the amount of depth of the game and the way that the game uses each of the unit types, to your advantage to try to figure out where your opponent can be hiding things. Cashrooms is a game. It's a game where you get a new piece of furniture or decorative item every hour, and you can place them in a room to make the room look fancy. And that is it. That is the game. So it's every hour you can launch the app, get your item, place the item, close the app. I don't know who this game style is for. This wasn't the only game that matched this style, so it's just something I haven't been exposed to before. The art was fine, the music was pretty good, but from a gameplay perspective, it wasn't really a game in the way that I would anticipate a game to be. But again, it might just be that I haven't been exposed to this style before. DOCAAY is another hourly drop game. I don't know if these are in style right now or not, but it's definitely not something for me. I like to have a little more activity in the games that I play, but it's another one where you can collect things over time. There is a little bit of a component of if you get something rare, it decays over time, and so you have to sacrifice your less rare cards that you collect to replenish the health of the cards that you want to keep. Again, it's cool. The art's pretty cool, but it's just not, in my opinion, like what I'm looking for from a game per se. In Hangman, you are a man who is hanging from a group of balloons, trying to guess the correct word or words for a given puzzle. And every time you guess incorrectly, one of your balloons pops, and you are in danger of falling into the clutches of the monster who is waiting eagerly below you for you to fail. I played one playthrough of this game and made it through. I think I had 99 points at the end. You get a point for each balloon that you keep. So if if you perfectly solve a puzzle, you get 7 points on easy, 6 points on medium, 5 points on hard. And then if you uh, lose a couple times or guess a couple wrong letters, then you get less points because you have less balloons. Simple concept, simple game, but it's a classic for a reason. It was enjoyable to play, and if you like word games and puzzle games, then this might be a game that's worth checking out. The Devil's Bride is a game that's in a different language from my native language of English. It's a horror game where you're in a house and you are trying to evade the Devil's Bride, who is like a undead, maybe witch type character. You can hide in closets, so it felt a little outlasty, where you can hide from things, kind of like the game from last week. You could pick up items and drop items. I couldn't figure out a way to use them to do anything or accomplish anything. I tried to sneak past her a few times, and she got me. The graphics are pretty good. The sound when she catches you is alarming, to say the least. So that gives you a nice, good jump scare. Um, and yeah, so if you know the language that this game is in and want to give it a try, then I recommend you do so. If you do not know the language, I think it'll be difficult to navigate. ETO is a turn-based combat game, XCOM style, where you navigate your units across the battlefield and give them commands, and then your enemy does the same, taking their turn, and this goes until one team has annihilated the other team. One special rule in ETO is that you must protect your general, so if you have your general kind of out in the open and they get killed, you lose. This is something I forgot in my later rounds and lost as a result of one that I was going to win because I had 3 units left and they only had 1, but they killed my general. The general is a key part to the battlefield because he can use an ability called Inspire, which gives you 2 additional action points on a unit. And if you have 2 units within range, you can actually do this twice on one turn, as long as it's a different unit each time. So you can get a lot of extra attacks out of your units if you use the general effectively and make sure he's positioned to be inspiring people throughout the battlefield. I did get a little confused why I couldn't do certain actions, so I'll talk through those things. If you have a unit that has a grenade and they throw it, that action's not available for the rest of the battle for that unit. If a unit gets shot and they're in a prone position, they can't shoot or move. You need to have a different unit, like a medic or your captain, rally them, which will heal them and get them back up, and then they can take their turn after they've been rallied. So that's something that I was having a hard time understanding why I couldn't move and stuff, so I just wanted to cover that. But yeah, it's a good game. It's difficult. The first couple times after the tutorial scenario, the first couple times on my second scenario, I lost. And technically the third time I lost too because my general died, but I feel like I would have won that one if I had just considered my general more. Um, but yeah, it's a fun game. I don't know how long the campaign is, but for something free, for a XCOM style battler, it's worth checking out. In Trapped Beast, you play a detective who is investigating a warehouse and instead of waiting for backup decides to go in on his own. Inside, he's met with zombie-like creatures and has to defend himself after being captured. There's the gameplay is okay. It's a little glitchy at times. You can't jump, so you have to navigate the map in the way of where can I get to without jumping, but there are mechanics built into the game to help you access areas that are higher than, eye level or whatever, where you can move up. The combat was okay. There were times where I would be swinging at something and not hit it. There were times where I would have just a hard time, lining up a shot against one of the zombies. And then the final boss of the area I was in, I put 40 bullets in the guy, and he was still coming at me. So I don't know what it takes to bring him down. But I made it to the first boss, so I played through a decent amount of the game, for the first level, and I really liked the ambiance. I liked the vibe of it. I like the art style. It's kind of Silent Hill-esque. And then just, the combat could be cleaned up a little bit, and I think maybe that big boss at the end could use a HP nerf. But otherwise, it was a pretty cool game. If you like these style horror games, Resident Evil, Silent Hill type, it might be worth giving a try. GrindFest is an ARPG that relies on a coding aspect where you can program your character to execute attacks and various other steps. You can unlock new characters as you progress and have multiple characters running around looting and attacking things. For the default gameplay without the programming aspect, there wasn't a lot to explain how to move around and stuff. So to move, you right click and the character will run toward your cursor, and if you left clicked, the character will attack. To loot things, drag them onto your hero. The code aspect, it starts with the default method, and then in the tutorial it says to comment out the first line and uncomment out the second line, and it'll kind of get you started with the coding portion of it. That didn't work for me. I got an error, so I don't know if there's a bug right now with that, but I wasn't able to go in and change any of the code. I do know C#, so it's something that I would have been able to do had it been functional, but for the purposes of the time I spent with it, I just couldn't get the application building by using the method that was predefined in the starting comment. So if they fix that, it might be a game worth checking out in the future, but I wasn't able to enjoy, I think, what the primary aspect of this game was, which is the coding side of things. Wild One's Battle Stadium is a game that's reminiscent of the old Worms games, like Worms Armageddon or Worms 3, where you have an arsenal and you are in a map that's a 2D map, and you can fire at your opponents with the arsenal that you have at your disposal. And there's things that'll drop from the sky that you can pick up that give you some advantages, and there's also the ability to destroy portions of the map. The winner is determined by who does the most damage throughout a time-limited playthrough. So as time runs out, try to get as much damage in as you can. The weapons, are unlocked via time played and currency earned from a shop. And you also get some as drops if you play games. I will say I was paired up against people who were significantly higher level than me, and so I had a hard time in the matches I was going against because they were just doing so much more damage than I was. So I was just getting repeatedly stomped, which is probably just a byproduct of not many people playing the game at the time I was playing it. But the gameplay itself was good. The cash shop's kind of a deterrent for me, but it's not the end of the world. And then the ability to customize your character is pretty cool as well, where you can go in and change what they look like and unlock cosmetics for, how they appear in the game. Slice, Suffer, Serve is a Fruit Ninja style game that instead of cutting fruit, you are cutting people. And the people give you 4 different types of food, and then the food lands on the ground and customers will come up asking for the different types of food. So zombies request brains, vampires request blood, etc. And they also have their preferences for decayed time. So when something first lands on the ground, it's fresh. You just cut that person open and got that body part. Over time, it'll decay, and there's 3 stages of decay that it goes through. And then the part of the game that is fun and interesting to me is you have to make sure that the food is there at the right decayed level to then serve. And then if it's going to decay beyond the time limit, you actually lose points for it. And so you want to drag it over into the bin so that you don't lose points from it expiring on the ground. So there's a little bit of, oh, I don't need this type right now. Let me drag that into the bin. Oh, I do need this type. Let me make sure that I'm saving it for, this person who wants it to decay a little further. I like this game a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. That is the gameplay, right? So that is all that there is to it, is slicing, dicing, serving up nicing. But it is fun. It's a good little time killer if you have 15 minutes or so that you want to just play something short. It's a good game to try out. I do recommend it for just playing a couple times and getting a feel for it, because I do think it's very well done and an enjoyable free to play game. Mpirimpa, which I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, is a game where you play a card game, which is called Mpirimpa, Barako, Canasta, or Barazilia in different countries. Canasta is a name I've heard before, but I didn't know the rules prior to playing this game. It's an online multiplayer game, so you find open lobby and you wager chips to play against another opponent, and if you win, you win chips from them, and if you lose your chips. First time I went to play it, I was unable to find a game, but I was able to run through the tutorial, and I thought that the tutorial for this game was actually really good for teaching Canasta, because I've again never played it before, and I feel like it gave me a good understanding of how the game works and how to play it. I did go back to the game a couple days later and find opponent, so I did get to play against someone. I got completely destroyed. I think there were a few things that I thought I'd be able to do and couldn't, and at one point I asked, like, in the chat, hey, why can't I do this? And I didn't get a reply. But overall, the gameplay was clean, easy to do. I didn't have any problems with the game itself. I would say my only gripe with the game right now is started off with 300 chips. I lost them in my first game, and then I had to wait 12 hours to get more chips, which I'm not going to do, right? So I uninstalled it. But I think if there was a way to kind of either start with more tokens so you can play a few more games before you're hard up for cash, or make that timer a little faster on the free chips aspect of it, maybe I would have given it another try, because again, I liked the game, but I'm just not going to wait that long in between, and I'm definitely not going to pay for chips for my second game, right? And so I think that's one area that could be improved. But otherwise, I think the gameplay was good, and I think if this is a game you know how to play, it might not be that bad. Stepping in and playing it, you might not lose your first game and be done for the next 12 hours. New Day is a game that is branded as a life simulator. It has a character creation tool that is reminiscent of creating a Mii on the Nintendo Wii, where you create villagers to put into your city, and then they, can go about their lives within the city. This is an early access game, so there's a number of features that are planned still, like an arcade. There's a mart that'll be added at some point, I believe. If you buy the Patreon for them, I believe that unlocks via that, which I did not do, but that is an option that's available. And then there also is some mini games you can play to make money. And then you can use the money to like upgrade things. And I think the one thing I spent money on was getting a newspaper subscription for the 2 villagers I created. One of the games to earn money is a Flappy Bird style game that I was able to push pretty far in. So that's an easier way to farm money. Another one is it's called card roulette, and you basically determine if you want to draw a card or if you want to give it to the villager who you brought with you, and whoever gets 3 skulls first loses. And you get money for every blank you draw, I believe. So you can, get a decent amount of money that way, but you might kill your villager, or you might lose money and get to keep your villager. And then there's bingo, but both times I played the game, it was not between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. Game time, I'm assuming, because it was 9 p.m. when I was playing the game. and so I was unable to play bingo. But that's another way to, I believe, earn money via mini games. Yeah, I think the game has some potential. I didn't see a lot of life simulation within the portions I played. They were always in their apartment when I checked there to interact with, but I don't know, what's planned for the future for the game in terms of, how vibrant the city gets with the more villagers you add and the more money you earn to unlock different things. But if you like simulation games, this might be a game to check out or keep an eye on for the future as it progresses towards release. JBomb is a game that takes a play off of some old Bomberman style games where you move around the map and place bombs and try to defeat the minions or monsters that are on the map, as well as find the exit by blowing up crates. And then you can only exit the map after all of the other creatures are dead, so you can't, speed your way to the exit and then peace out before killing everything. You still have to take care of everything that's on the map. I do feel like the inability to throw bombs sometimes led to difficulty defeating things because you had to try to predict their path, and their paths were sporadic, and so you'd place a bomb where you think something's going and it would turn around and go the other way, and you'd have to loop back and try to catch it over there. And it wasn't necessarily like a difficulty thing, it was more of just like a annoyance thing of like, why can't I just predict where this guy's going to go? And then the ability, sometimes when I would place a bomb, it would put me on the other side of it because I was like moving when I placed it, and I didn't like stop, place, and then back up. And so that would sometimes trap me, which was frustrating as well at times, where I would get trapped between my bomb and a wall. And it's like, well, see you guys. I did really like the art style, especially on the boss fight. The giant ghost and trying to dodge him and the mini ghosts and stuff. I thought that was a fun fight. I did lose every time I tried it, but it was a fun fight, and I came close. One time I did kill him with a bomb that went off after I died. So that it's a it's not a victory, but it felt close. I at least got to defeat the ghost once. But yeah, it's a neat little game. It's free. Try it out. I recommend it for people who enjoy this style of game because it's got a ton of levels to play through. It looked like so there's plenty of content for you if you decide to pick this one up. Klondike's Hike is a solitaire roguelike where you progress through a number of scenarios with your deck. You start with a normal deck of cards playing solitaire, and you can modify cards as you play through, and you can unlock new cards, and you can also unlock abilities that make it easier to complete, a game of solitaire. The earlier fights require only a certain number of points to attack the creature that you're facing. I think the first one was like 12 or 15 points, and so you had to. I think you get a point per uh, number put into your scoring zones. So if you have like all four aces, you have 4 points. If you then add a two, you have 6 points, right? You've added two on top of your four, and so the points scale up pretty quickly as you get further down or further up the chain of the scoring. The first few battles were not too difficult because you didn't need a big number. Uh, and then when you get to the boss, you have to clear the whole board to attack. So it is quite difficult at the boss. I was able to win, although there were some things that happened in my final battle that I don't know why they happened that worked to my advantage. So I don't know if there was something the boss did that triggered it or if it was something that I did that triggered it. But there were times where I would cap something and then that card would go like back into the deck, or I would move something and that card would go back into the deck, and I don't know what determined why that was happening. But overall, it's a fun game. I like card-based games. I love Balatro. I like this game. I like Inscription. I like pretty much every game that uses cards. I even liked Mpirimpa minus the inability to play it more than once. So I think this is a fun game. I think it's worth trying out. It was just the one level, but it is in early access and there's plans to add more, so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on in the future too. Maki's Adventure Level Editor is a Mario Maker style level editor based on the game Maki's Adventure, which is available on the Steam store for $5 as of the time of this recording. But the level creator is a nice, little level creator. I spent, a little bit of time trying out different things, learning how far I can jump, and I could see how you could spend a long time building, complex maps with this level creator. I did 100 by 100 grid or something like that, and there's the ability to go up to like 30,000 or something crazy. So you can make just massive maps with tons of traps and things to avoid and navigate. I could see, sinking a ton of time into this. So if level creation and generation is the type of thing that interests you, this is definitely something worth checking out. I don't know if I didn't try to download a level from someone else to see if you can play it within the level editor or if you need to own the game for $5 to play levels that have been created. But the level editing itself was definitely pretty fun. Lastly, as promised, I'll just touch on the visual novels that were released this week that were free to play. The first one is Cuter's Showroom. It's described as a dress up game with a dark twist. And then Pirates of Jinsokyo, which is described as a fan game for Touhou Project, which I didn't know what that was, so I had to look it up, and it's apparently a video game series. So those are the two visual novels that released this week that are free to play. So there you have it. That is our second episode of Free to Play Weekly, looking at the week of 12/23 to 12/29. We had 15 games, 2 visual novels to talk about. And if you saw it, hopefully you found something useful in this video that you're looking forward to trying. I'll keep putting these out as long as people are enjoying them. And I'm tinkering with the process a little bit. I added the recommended game section this week. I'm also doing my audio outside of this outro. I'm doing my audio in audio editing software instead of in video software, so that's making it a little easier to tone down my breathing and other background noise that gets picked up. So I've been working on that as well. So hopefully you'll find that the sound quality is better in this video versus prior ones. But yeah, Monday seems like it's going to be the best time for me to upload these. It gives me an extra day in case there's some games released on Sunday that I need to play through, review, record, cut, edit, all of that. So I think Monday nights is going to be the goal for getting these videos out. So that having been said, we'll see you next Monday. Have a good one.